A family is sitting at a dinner table. Someone pulls up a number on their phone. The other person gets quiet. The total is higher than last year. Someone says, maybe they should skip it this year, and then no one cancels. Instead, someone suggests fewer days, a cheaper hotel, packing lunches. And just like that, the conversation shifts. Not whether to go, how to afford going. A week at Disney World for a family of four costs over $7,000 in 2026. That number is not hidden. Everyone sees it before they book, and then something strange happens. They book anyway. Not one family, millions of them. Every single year, prices go up, demand holds. That is not normal consumer behavior, and it did not happen by accident. Think about what happens in the months before a Disney trip. Hotels compared, park days mapped out, dining reservations booked weeks in advance, videos watched about how to move through the parks faster, budgets stretched. It takes more planning than most international vacations, and nobody really questions that. Or at least, not for long. The effort alone starts to change things, because by the time someone arrives at the park, they have already invested something more valuable than money. Time, attention, emotional energy. They have already committed. And commitment changes how the brain processes everything that comes after. That part is hard to see from the outside, but it is easy to feel. Once the cost is high enough, something shifts inside. The brain stops asking if it was worth it. It starts working to prove that it was. The bad parts of the day get quieter. The good parts get louder. Not because the experience was better than expected, because the brain needs it to be. This is not a theory. It is one of the most studied patterns in behavioral psychology. The higher the price, the harder the mind works to justify it. And Disney's pricing makes this happen at every level. A single day ticket to Magic Kingdom cost $99 in 2014. Today, it costs up to $209. Most people would not accept that kind of increase from a grocery store. They would walk out. But nobody walks out of this. Because Disney did not just raise the price, it changed how the price moves. Dynamic pricing, the number shifts depending on the day. Holidays cost more, weekends cost more. The exact week a family's kids have off school costs more. The decision is no longer whether to go, it is which version of the cost to accept. And by the time someone is comparing dates on the calendar, the real decision has already been made. They just have not noticed it yet. There is a moment in that process, a brief hesitation. The total appears on the screen. Something tightens. And then the next step happens anyway. Maybe that feels familiar. If it does, it's not random. That moment has a pattern to it. The pause, the second look. The quiet, maybe not. Followed by, okay, just this once. Most people don't notice it. They just move through it. But if this is starting to feel less like information and more like something you've already done, then you're already seeing it. And if that landed, you're paying attention. That's what this channel is built for. Not just explaining what's happening, but showing you the parts most people move past without ever noticing. If you want to keep seeing what's underneath, subscribe. Because the system pays attention to what you choose to follow. Because the system doesn't stop either. It just keeps finding ways to turn that moment into something you can pay to avoid. And one of the clearest examples of that used to be free. For over 20 years, Disney offered a free system called FastPass. Grab a ticket, come back later. Skip the line. It was included. In 2021, it disappeared. In its place came a paid system. Lightning Lane. On a peak day, it costs around $45 per person. For a family of four, that is $180 in a single day. To skip lines that now feel longer than they used to. That is not just an upgrade. It is a system where waiting became something you can pay to remove. And inside the park, every friction point has a price attached. Skip the line. Unlock a better time slot. Download the photo. Each one feels optional, but standing in 90-degree heat with a 6-year-old who is about to break down, optional stops existing. The phone comes out. The screen gets tapped. No hesitation, no second thought. Just a small transaction that barely registers in the moment. And the strangest part is, it doesn't happen there. It happens after. Think about the last time someone came home from a Disney trip. Not the version they posted about, the real one. The 80-minute line in the heat. The crying. The $22 water and pretzel. There was probably a moment during that trip where nothing felt magical at all. Just exhaustion, just noise, just wanting it to be over. But a few weeks later, someone asks about the trip, and the answer comes out different. The lines disappear from the story. The heat fades. What stays is a daughter's face meeting her favorite character. The fireworks, the warmth. The version that gets remembered is not the version that happened. It is the version the brain needed to keep. Because the more someone paid, the less room there is to say it was just okay. $7,000 cannot be just okay. The brain will not allow it. That is not memory. That is the brain protecting the investment. That moment, where something about this feels a little too accurate, most people move past it, because the pricing is not even the deepest part of this. The real question is not why Disney costs so much. It is why people keep going back when they already know it does. And the answer is not the rides, not the food, not the fireworks. It's not something they do, it's who they are. For a lot of families, Disney is not a vacation. It is a tradition. The matching shirts at the airport, the countdown calendar on the fridge, the framed photos in the hallway, a movie watched before learning to read, a character carried to bed every night, a song that still plays word for word inside someone's head 20 years later. That wasn't just entertainment, that was the foundation. By the time someone is old enough to question it, the identity is already there. Walking away does not feel like a budget decision. It feels like breaking a promise to a younger version of themselves. And people do not break promises like that. If that feels familiar, it is not a coincidence. It was designed to feel that way. The system does not need to make it cheaper. It just needs leaving to feel wrong. There is a man sitting in his car in the parking lot. The trip is over, his phone is still in his hand. The credit card statement is open. Tickets, hotel, dining, lightning lane, souvenirs that his kids forgot by the second day. He pauses. There were lines, there were meltdowns. There was a moment on day 3 where he stood in the middle of Magic Kingdom and felt nothing at all. But if he admits it was not worth it, then what was all of it for? He already knows what he is going to say. He just hasn't said it yet. He locks his phone, sits there for a second, then gets out of the car, walks inside, and when someone asks how the trip was, he smiles and says it was worth it. That is not a memory. That is the system completing its loop. Anyone who has ever opened the Disney site, seen the price, paused, and still clicked continue, did not make that decision in that moment. Not there. Long before that. It was made years earlier, by a system that never needed to hide the price. It just needed the belief that paying it means something. About identity, about family, about what kind of memories are worth building. And that belief did not start with a price tag. It started with a cartoon watched before the age of 5. And once something like that is in place, it doesn't stay in one place. It spreads. Because the system doesn't need to control everything. It just needs to shape how something feels early enough that the decision never really gets questioned. Disney is just one version of it. The same pattern shows up in places that look completely different, where friction appears, then disappears, for a price. Where identity forms, before choice ever happens. Where something feels personal, but was designed that way long before you noticed it. And once you see it here, you start seeing it everywhere. Disney is not the only system that works this way. There is one running right now. It charges in layers, turns friction into revenue, and attaches itself to identity early enough that it is never questioned. 2 videos are on the screen right now. They were not placed there randomly. Something about them matched how you think. Pick one. I will see you there.